incredible flavours, even better stories. One pour, 10 minutes, Aussie bourbon lovers sharing bourbon with Australia.
Here we go.
What are we drinking today, Dave?
So this is super exciting. This is the 2024. Actually, we're joined again by Andrea Wilson and Dan McKee from Michters. Maybe
Welcome,
you guys, can you tell us what we're pouring? What are we having tonight?
We are going to have the Michters Toasted Barrel Finish Bourbon. And very excited to share this with you all. Wait, you all did your pop, so now we have to do our pop.
Great. Awesome.
This should be coming soon to Australia. This is the 2024 release, and this is the 10-year anniversary of the Michters Toasted Bourbon release. So we were the first American whiskey company to release a toasted barrel finish bourbon in 2014. So this is our 10-year anniversary, and so we're very excited to share this with you all.
Cheers
Amazing.
to 10 years.
Cheers, 10 years of toasted barrel finishes. This is amazing. So tell us what is a toasted barrel finish? How is this finish kind of unique, and what are we talking about?
So the whole idea of the toasted barrel finish started in 2014 with the concept. At that time, you just have to rewind history, and basically what was happening is a lot of American whiskey companies were taking their fully matured whiskey product and then they were putting it into like a sherry cask or a port cask or a rum cask, something like that, for a finishing process and to create their final product. And we thought, gosh, we worked so hard to make our base whiskey. Why would we want to influence it with another product that has been in a barrel? And we thought our thing is really toasted barrels, because we toast all of our barrels for it before we char them. And the goal for us is that toasting different temperatures for different amounts of time. It's a slow heating of the barrel. The barrel's not on fire. The flame never touches the barrel. But it allows us to break down different extractable compounds in the wood that can really influence the final product in terms of its flavor. So we said, why don't we fully mature our bourbon 5 to 7 years, take it out of wood, and then put it back into a toasted only barrel, no char, for a finishing process. And so while we don't release the details of the toast profile, and there are hundreds of toast profiles you can choose from, we don't release the details of the toast, and we don't release the details of how long it's in that second barrel. But I will tell you, when our master distiller, our first master distiller here was Willie Pratt. Willie was amazing, very talented man, almost 50 years in the industry, just an amazing resource. And we all agreed we weren't going to tell anybody anything. And the very first event that we did after the Toasted Bourbon release, everybody was excited. They'd never seen something like this before. People were asking questions. And Willie let the cat out of the bag that it had been, I don't know if that's an Australian term, but we use that in the US all the time.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
No.
It can be a bad thing, but...
But he basically told everybody that it was 28 days in the second barrel. And so while we don't release that information today, I think it is helpful to understand it's a very limited finishing process, because the barrel is so rich with flavor, and it has a high degree of influence very quickly on what the toasted barrel finish product will be. But it's beautiful. The Toasted series has continued for us. We then created Toasted Barrel Strength Rye, and then the third in this series so far is the Toasted Sour Mash. So but yeah, this is the anniversary of 10 years ago. We did our first toasted bourbon, and it has been highly appreciated all over the world. People just love it. I think it's, for me, it's very reminiscent of sort of the fall season for us. I don't know how that translates in Australia particularly, but like the leaves start to turn color here on the trees. It starts to get a little cooler. People want to spend more time outside, have a little fire pit, where you just hang out outside, and it's a great whiskey to just enjoy during our fall season. So, but like I say, I think there's a season for all of our whiskeys, and they're enjoyed all over.
I like to say there's a year-long journey with our whiskeys, but if you're seasonal, that's fine. But Andrea's right. It does really fit into the fall, because we always like to say there's a lot of beautiful, whether it's those nice brown sugars, cinnamons, campfire notes, and that's what really brings it into that fall and makes it really a beautiful. Also, Andrea mentioned earlier just that 5 to 7. I always like to say we age to a taste profile here at Michters. It's not an age statement. So it's not 4 years, 1 day, or if it's one of our 10-year releases, it's not 10 years, 1 day. It's about when it's ready. So if it's not ready at 5 years when we're tasting through our stocks, it'll just continue to stay in the barrels until it is ready. And that's the other part of Michters. There's not a pressure to rush that. So it also helps with our quality program here. And then since and I know in a different episode, we talked about a lot about maturing, kind of behind the scenes in the distilling part of the whiskey. I would like to take an opportunity, if it's okay, Andrea, but
Definitely.
Again, we do this all day long. Maybe not.
This is so good.
Oh no, I'm actually working. I don't know what Dan is doing.
She acts all professional and everything. No, I do like to say about just kind of the distilling portion of this. The 3 grains that we're using in our whiskeys are corn, rye, malted barley. They're all U.S. grade #1 non-GMO. So to us, we're just starting out with the highest quality grains. Okay, so very important to us. And then what's really special is after we're milling the grains, we're going to mash. All of our whiskeys are of the sour mash process, where we're reusing what we call thin stillage, or some people call backset, but it's liquid captured from the distillation after the alcohol's been removed from the distiller's beer. Reuse it in the mashing process, and it helps us use less water, just pH, and we're not adding liquid enzymes in our mashing process, so we're using the naturally arrived enzymes from the malted barley to convert those starches to simple sugars. So it's things like that we're doing that are truly special. But also our distillation system, it's 100% copper. There's over 5,000 kilograms of copper in this system. And, we distill on the first distillation is going to occur in a continuous column still. It's 14 meters tall, 81 centimeters in diameter. Then to a doubler pot still. So we do a double distillation. So it makes what I would say a very clean but very flavorful, high quality distillate, as Andrea has alluded to. There's whether it's fruity and floral notes, but it's very beautiful. A lot of flavor still left in it. And then and then we do venture into the maturing side of it. But it really does. Pam Howman, who was Michter's second master distiller, with a lot of distilling experience that I worked under for well over 10 plus years, and learned a lot from her. She always, I won't say exactly how she would say it, but she would say that you have to have very high quality distillate at the beginning to have a very high quality product at the end after aging. So barrels do wonderful things, but if it's not right at the beginning, it won't be right at the end. And that's, a testament of what we're doing here.
Right, yeah. And when it comes to the toasting the barrels and choosing to toast and not to char, what's the impact that the char would have if you decided to char as well as toast in that secondary barrel? What would happen there? Is that it would just change the profile completely? I mean, there's this lovely, that I'm getting a lot of like spices, the kind of like Christmas spices and like the sweetness that's coming through.
I think that's it. Yeah, that's beautiful. You clearly know your business of tasting whiskey, because it's definitely got these beautiful sort of holiday spice characteristics to it, which I think are very warming for people. It's very nice and welcoming. But the charring process, people think that char inside the barrel is an internal filter, and that's true. The whiskey will move in and out of the capillaries of the wood. It will move through the char layer, and it will filter out, over the time of aging. different things that maybe you're not as interested in your final product. But what it also does is it helps you accentuate flavor. So your lighter chars are going to help you accentuate your fruit esters and your spice characteristics, whereas your darker chars are going to help you accentuate some of your darker, richer characteristics, maybe like a dark chocolate or, like an oaky or smoky characteristic, things like that. So again, it kind of comes back to this notion that it's really about what are you trying to achieve. And for us, we just wanted to capture the extractives from the toasting of the barrel to see the influence that it would have. And so if you're able to acquire a bottle of toasted bourbon, you might also want to acquire a bottle of Michters bourbon, the small batch bourbon, so that you can actually compare and contrast, which is super fun to do, because then you can really dial into what are the unique differences that the toasted barrel finish is offering, because it does kind of round out the edges of the bourbon and really starts to highlight some of those kind of holiday spices that you talked about, and bringing in just a very elegant little bit of smokiness to it that sort of underpins it all and brings it together in a beautiful way. It's very creamy and lovely and nice to drink. So
yeah, it's definitely very smooth.
Yeah, it's fun you talk about the idea of tasting them side by side. We'll have to do this because this is something that we learned that we need to do. We're really early, I think, on our American whiskey journey anyway. But we were at Watch Hill proper when we were in Kentucky only like 6 or 8 weeks ago.
Yeah, and they lined up a set of they got us to do a blind tasting, which we thought was very fun. They didn't tell us what bottles we were drinking, what particular bourbons they were, anything. So we were having a lot of fun just tasting it and trying to guess smells and flavours.
Writing down notes, all the good stuff with the pencils and all that kind of stuff.
Pretending we were real, professionals.
And we don't know what we're doing. You guys should know we don't know what we're doing.
Anyway, we got to the four glasses and we got to the last one and both of us tasted it. And I wrote down that I didn't give it like a name, the flavour a name. I just said it took me to in front of my fireplace at home. And when Dave was reading his notes out, he's like, I wrote the exact same thing, sitting on our couch at home. Was the flight like that's where that particular whiskey took us. And when they showed us what the bottle was, it was a Michters. And both of us love sitting at home drinking a Michters. And the fact that, like, completely unlabelled, we just knew that whatever that particular flavour was.
We didn't know what it was. We knew it was familiar. We knew it was like
really
sitting
familiar,
at home.
and it both took us home.
Well, that's fantastic because I'm going to go out and get a bottle of that so I can understand what it's like to sit on your couch in your living room.
In front of our fireplace. You'll be right here with us in Australia.
In front of the fireplace, yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
What you speak to, though, is, first of all, thank you so much for that. It's just that's what we live for. Like, we live for that feedback. We have so many people all over the world that tell us about experiences that they have, with our Michters portfolio. And that's why we do it. We know that this is very personal to us and we're very passionate about what we're doing. Making an emotional connection with someone like that triggers a memory for you is a very powerful thing. And we're really honored to be able to create these beautiful whiskeys that, trigger memories like that for you. That's just such a wonderful thing.
I mean,
it's one of the reasons.
We know we're not solving the world's problems, but if we can actually share some enjoyment, I mean, truly, and Andrea always says, we're not just making whiskey, we're also in the hospitality business too. And we have such great partners out there, from farmers at the beginning and suppliers all the way to the stores, the bartenders, the on-off premise accounts. I mean, so many people, right? And we're all here to provide an experience. And Andrea's right. We've been doing this long enough. When somebody comes up and shares really a heartfelt moment with you, whether it was a toast of a birth of a child or someone's passing, and this is what I used to drink with my father, on his birthday every year. And then, so I toast them now. I mean, that's pretty cool that what we're doing, and we're making beautiful whiskeys, and that someone's going to bring that into their life and then share that moment with us. It's pretty amazing.
Can I ask us a strange technical question? Because that particular pour was the toasted rye, toasted barrel rye, and we don't drink. We're not traditional rye drinkers. We love your rye, but we don't drink a lot of it, even though we love it because we got that terrible thing where we like prefer bourbon, and we haven't had that much. I can still see how much of that bottle we've had of the toasted barrel rye. So is there something that's kind of consistent across all of the flavor profile of all of the Michters expressions that we might have kind of identified, that we might have gone, that's why we feel like we're sitting on our couch at home?
I think that part of it is the house style of Michters. This concept of rich, flavorful, easy drinking experiences is something that, at least in my experience, and, we travel all over the world, we meet a lot of people, it seems to be consistent that it's very comforting, and whatever your memories of comfort are, that the things that bring you the most, just personal joy, it seems to be very emotionally connected in that way. So, whether you were speaking about, being on your couch at home, but for somebody else, it might be, it's like when I get into a good book and, I'm sitting by the fire and I've got my blanket and, and I'm just in my place, my special place, those kinds of things that signifies an emotional connection with what we're doing and the whiskeys that we make. And I think it just kind of all comes back to the style of whiskey that we're making and the fact that it's comforting for so many people as a drinking experience. Like, you can just sit back, relax, whether you drink it neat or you drink it over a cube of ice. It's just very enjoyable. Like, every sip is meant for you to savor and enjoy and have a lovely experience that is memorable for you. And that's what we're trying to do. And it's not just a one-time thing. It's the consistent, repeatable production of that over years is what, Michters is all about. Anybody can do anything one time, but doing it over and over and over again in a consistent, repeatable way is much more difficult. And that's a real testament to the team here.
Yes.
So for all those people wanting to make a great Michters memory, when will this one be available in Australia?
I think Tom's told us this is early next year, right? This is that it comes in Australia. Yeah, the toasted, but they're notoriously hard to find all over the world, right? There's a really limited release of the toasted barrel bourbons. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Michters has been on a journey, and every year, I think when we first brought the stills online here, we were 4 fermenters, and then we added 4 more the very next year, and then we added 2 more, and then we went to 5-day production, 24-hour, and then we went to 24-hour, 7-day productions. So over the years, I'm telling you that story because over the years, we've gradually been creating more and more and more, but we've also done it in a very thoughtful way. We have an over 30-year planning horizon. And so, we are trying to stay true to who we are, to the ability to produce quality whiskey, not be driven by, age statements, but be truly driven by the quality of the whiskey, and to keep all of that as the core center focus of Michters and, control our growth over time is a very important aspect. So the good news is, we're releasing more of things now than we were maybe years ago, back in 2014. One was the first release of our toasted bourbon, but, we're still a growing company. We're a growing brand. It's amazing. As Dan said, it's all the support from people like you who tell our stories and share what we're doing, all the way through to amazing bartenders curating beautiful drinking experiences, through to, great retailers like, many that you all have in Australia as well. Through to our importers, distributors, it's a lot of people, are championing Michters, and we can't, we make the whiskey, but we can't articulate enough the grateful thankfulness that we have for people who are sharing it and telling our story.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest compliment and thank you to everybody was in the fall of 2023. Michters was voted most admired whiskey in the world by Drinks International, and it was an academy of 23 independent voters from around the world that voted on this, and the first time an American whiskey company had achieved this honor. So for a small family-owned distillery to win some, be named that was a huge achievement, but a huge honor for us. And again, it just goes back to what Andrea just mentioned. It's just, we can't do it without everybody. So with that, I say cheers.
Yeah, my word. Cheers.
Cheers.
Get your hands on some of the world's most admired whiskey and enjoy it. Cheers.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you're connected with us on TikTok, Instagram and YouTube, and stay connected with us by clicking subscribe on your favourite podcast app.